Okay. I'm Wendy Garvin. I'm from Second and Second Coalition at Unsheltered Utah, and we are here today in a warming tent out on 5th West and 300 South. And we're here to provide some warmth because it is just bitterly cold out here. It got down to 1 degree last night, and it's expected to get down to -3 tonight. So all we have here is some pop-up tents. We have some tarps, and then we have these wonderful propane heaters. They're all borrowed from different organizations. And we're just trying to keep things warm enough that people can survive.
Okay, it's expected to be -3 degrees
-3 tonight, yeah.
And are there any beds in any of the shelters?
No, the shelters are all full.
And Mayor Mendenhall held a press conference, made a big deal about signing an emergency decree that each of the shelters would get 25 more beds. Is it true that the 2 shelters in Salt Lake City are 45 beds below what they've been authorized to have?
That's correct.
45.
Correct.
So 45 people could be off the streets and in these shelters, according to the mayor's emergency decree and the state's order.
If the state and the city had also provided funding for staffing, that might have been helpful. But all they did was raise the limits, but they didn't provide any funding for staffing. And so the shelters have lost staff since that emergency order. So that means they actually have less beds available because they can't staff them.
They have fewer beds.
Correct.
Since the emergency decree.
Correct.
How would you characterize that emergency decree and that yet another photo op and press conference by Mayor Mendenhall?
I would call it performative and ineffective.
What was the first word?
Performative.
Performative.
And ineffective.
All right. Wendy, I've got to hand it to you. You are a hero of mine. I say that to everybody. What you do for people in the homeless community, I'm absolutely convinced you save lives. Tell me, why did you come up with an idea? What about the movie night at the First Universal Methodist Church? Why a movie night?
Well, we would love to have called it an emergency shelter, but it's illegal to open emergency shelters. There's a moratorium on new shelters in the city.
Who made it illegal?
That would be Mayor Mendenhall.
And the city council?
And the city council did sign that order, that's correct.
So you came up with the idea, we can't call it a shelter, so we'll ask people to come join us and watch a movie.
That's right.
And so it's 80 plus people come almost every night to get out of the cold in the First Universal Methodist Church with the movie playing up on the wall, and they get food, they get beverages, warm beverages, and they get a place to sleep all night long.
Right. And
I love you for doing that. Thank you.
We just want people to survive. These folks are our friends. We've known them for years, and they are suffering. Cold is not just a temperature thing. Cold is pain. People are losing toes, they're losing fingers, and some of them are losing their lives. And it's just not acceptable for a city filled with this much wealth to be so cavalier with people's lives like this. They have all the resources that they need to open up buildings and to create shelter, and they have the funding and they have the manpower, and they choose not to do it. So instead we come out here as volunteers and we put up tarps, and we're going to be here all night long because we don't want people to die. And really, somebody else should be doing this, and that somebody else is Mayor Mendenhall and her city staff and the state and the county, and instead they're planning their next abatements.
When you use the word abatement, you know that I don't like that word. I think it's dehumanizing.
Eviction and property confiscation.
You abate mosquitoes, you abate nuisances. These are police raids along with contractors paid for by the city to come in, run people off from their encampments when they have nowhere else to go.
Right.
right?
There is nowhere else for them to go. The cops will never tell them where they are allowed to go. They only tell them you can't be here.
Do any caseworkers come out and
No.
say, hey, let me give you a helping hand. Here's where you can go. Find some warmth, find some food, find a public bathroom.
Nope, there's no caseworkers, there's no social workers. That's because there are no resources, because there aren't actually beds that they could go to. So when you have nothing to offer, why would you show up?
Okay, but there are plenty of financial resources.
Oh, sure. This is a very wealthy state, and there's plenty of ARPA money available that could be used. The legislature's in session right now. They could do an emergency order and provide funding tomorrow. There's no excuses, zero excuses for anybody to not be funding and supporting the work that it takes to save lives. And it's not a lot of work. You know what? I spent $200 on tarps and $25 on propane. And that's all it takes to save lives. So where is this big money that we could be spending on this?
What it takes is will and caring and decent leadership.
Well, let's see if we can find some of that, huh?
I know. Thank you for everything you've done, Wendy.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.